welcome back to our podcast, The Blend Effect.
I'm Radhika.
And I'm Sayli, and we do this podcast to talk about our experiences growing up in North America to immigrant Marathi parents.
Yes.
Yeah.
And today we're going to be talking about
cultural differences.
Yes.
Yeah.
So among Sayli and I, sort of in our many conversations, we realized that there's a lot of different cultural differences that we've kind of experienced. So we thought, why not use this episode to talk about some?
Yeah, so some of the cultural differences, of course, we are on board with.
Right.
And some of the cultural differences we are maybe not practicing in our adult lives.
Yes.
And these cultural differences are basically cultural differences that we faced growing up, where we were growing up in our American or Canadian culture, right? And then versus when we were interacting with our parents or interacting with Indian relatives or friends or going to India or India trips, things that we face there. So
yes, for sure.
You want to get started?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
So one of the things that I feel like really has affected me or hit me or something I've seen a lot is sort of this these formalities, I think. So I've noticed that whenever we would go to India as kids, or even kind of later as, adults, I would hear a lot of my cousins or my cousins' friends or our other family members call their managers or their bosses, sir or madam, or even not even necessarily their bosses, but sometimes you'll go shopping in a store and someone will call you sir or madam.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is very formal. To me, it just seemed very formal. And so I don't even know if it's right or wrong. I just know it was something that I struggled with accepting.
Yeah. I definitely have had that experience as well. It was interesting because just this past weekend, I was at the NAFA Film Festival.
Yeah.
So I'll talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
And it was really funny because I was given several roles at this festival where I needed to interact with the celebrities that were visiting, right?
Yeah.
And we were given very strict instructions to call them sir or ma'am. It didn't matter how old they were. Mm-hmm. It didn't matter, where in their career they were or what my career might be.
Right.
I've been a doctor for the past 12 years almost. But no, very strict instructions to call them sir or ma'am. And it was just so interesting because when I went to meet the celebrity that I was supposed to be interviewing after a few days, we were just having a sit-down talk and I was just sitting there what am I supposed to call him? Because we were around the same age, and he was talking to me very chill and I was talking to him very chill. And but I was just, हे तुम्ही वाली भाषा वापरत होते मी त्याच्याशी बोलताना कारण that's what was expected or those were the instructions that were given. Mm-hmm. But I think he was just also a little bit weirded out by that or what, I don't know. Maybe he was weirded out or maybe he was used to it because, he's from India. But having to call him sir was very odd. And during the interview, also I had to call him sir. And I just remember asking him later, what do you want me to call you?
Right.
And he just told me to call him by a shortened version of his name.
Right.
But I just remember feeling it was so odd. And I talked to my husband after that about, hey, what do you think about this? And I think he's somewhere in the middle where he's that sounds weird to me now, but I wonder if he was still in India. If that would have continued sounding weird to him then. Yeah,
exactly. So. And it's interesting because at this festival, right, we have celebrities, coming from India, right? Even though they're visiting here.
Right.
It's interesting how those sort of Indian norms, the expectation is that they still carry them here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's not like they India na America tale म्हणून then they're just expecting. And then the other thing that's really interesting is that I'm so used to calling people who are older kaka or kaku or something like that, right? And it was funny because when I was interacting with these people at the festival, those who were older, I almost called them kaka or I can't call you kaka. That's not right. Sir. It was really funny. But, coming on to the topic of formalities, I do think that while it's weird to us to call people sir and ma'am, on another note, it's interesting because in America, at least, and I'm guessing Canada too, a lot of times people would call their friends' parents by their first name.
Oh, yes, all the time. And I found it super weird because I would go to their house and if I was going to, my friend's house who was Marathi, I was obviously calling them Maushi or Kaku or something. And even sometimes, even if they weren't Marathi, then it would be auntie. It's funny because I would go to some Canadian person's house and then I was what do I call them? Everyone else was using their first name, which seemed very odd to me.
Right.
So that's interesting because on this note, it seems we have accepted, sort of this like Indian norm, right?
Right.
Like when it comes to something like this, but going back to the sir or madam issue, that is then, very odd to us, but it's not odd to call, someone kaku or maushi.
Yeah, but honestly, I don't think I could go to an American person's house, like a friend's house, and call their parents even to this day. I don't think I can call them like just by their first name. I think to some extent people used to say Mrs. So-and-so, and maybe that's okay, but the first name thing just always got to me.
Yeah.
But on that note now, tell me, if you run into a teacher that you had back in the day, what do you call them?
I call them like Mrs. or Miss or Mr.
Mr. Whoever, right? Yeah. It's funny because I am Facebook friends with a lot of my teachers from like 6th grade, 7th grade and stuff like that now, right? And I guess thinking back, they're not that much older than us.
Right.
They are like at least 20 years older than us. But they're still young and they're still cool, and it's funny because I remember one time I was it was like 10 years ago when you were still leaving comments on people's Facebook.
Yeah.
And I remember writing Mrs. So-and-so something, and she was just like, oh no, just call me, by my first name now. You're an adult, you're grown up. And I was just like, I don't think I can ever call you this. Ever. You can be like 80 and I'll be 60, but
I'm still going to call you.
You're still Mrs. So-and-so.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a form of respect.
Yeah, no, exactly. And it was like what I was saying before, right? It's interesting how, when it comes to this, we, totally honor and, respect, the title and, respecting that person or their position. Right. But then when we think about going to India, like the sir, madam thing, that just seems totally off to us.
Yeah. But I wonder why that is, because technically it should all be the same, right?
I guess it should be, but maybe this just goes back to one of those things that's just been like culturally ingrained in us. And again, this kind of, once again, talks about how we're kind of somewhere in the middle, right? We're neither here nor there.
Yeah. Very good point.
So,
what else have you experienced?
Just in terms of sort of, I guess, like cultural differences. So one of the things is, this is actually kind of funny, but so like when I was a kid, right? I think our parents were all about, reuse and recycling and all these things. So, and even today, like, my husband is like, I'm born and raised in India, and he's all about, like, let's, reuse stuff, reuse stuff. And my head is kind of like, I don't want to reuse this, like, this like, jar of jam or something, or, my instinct is like, okay, like I'll take the jar, use the jam, and then just, throw it away.
Yeah.
But he's like, no, we can use this to like put something in it. And then I was thinking back to like my parents as kids, and, I don't know if you've, seen those jokes where it was like, where it was, it's like you knew you were, raised in an Indian household if you had those like reusable, all those like bottles that were reused in your cabinet.
Like dahicha dabbat pins milta to.
Exactly, right? It's like dahicha dabbat madhe kiwa, in this like jam sa dabba, you would buy some, like barbecue sauce or something, and our parents would, put chutney or something. Right. And growing up as a kid, I was like, this is so normal, right? But then now, or, when I would see, like my, Canadian or like American friends, they didn't do that, right? Like they used mason jars.
Right.
I don't know, this is sort of one of those little funny things.
It is funny, and I wonder if our parents are doing it the right way because they're recycling and reusing, which is becoming like the fad now here, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's necessarily wrong that they did that. I certainly don't do that just because I don't think about it.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
I don't know, who knows? Why not just to use a different dabba for a different thing? Maybe I won't go that far, but I do wonder घरी दही लावायचं असेल.
Right.
So why not just do it in जुना दह्याचा डबा?
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. I've never thought about it until we're having this conversation right now.
Yeah.
But,
no, and it's so true because in this perfect world, it makes sense, right? Like, there's already so much wasted. Why am I going to go and waste something else if it's perfectly good? If all I have to do is just wash it and reuse it. Right. And I could probably even, like relabel it if I wanted to.
Yeah.
But it doesn't, to me, it's like, okay, I'm done with this. I'm just going to go through it. Yeah. But that's not really how.
I wonder if as North Americans, we are wasteful, or maybe we're just taking things for granted, like the planet. I don't know. I just wonder about that because I definitely do the same thing. I'm not thinking about it until right now, this instant where you brought up the topic, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah, no, for
My mom definitely did it, but I don't.
Right, exactly.
Maybe not to that extent.
Right, no, for sure. And I think, it's a balancing act, right? Like it's always good to, do a little bit of recycling, but maybe you don't want to keep each and every little thing. I think we don't want to go to the extreme end of like hoarding.
And I am definitely like a Cancerian / like, I don't know, they say that we're hoarders, so I am very capable of hoarding, so I probably shouldn't get into that.
Right. But yes, I mean, reusing, recycling is always a good thing, but again, I think just to show how we're kind of somewhere in the middle, where it's like, okay, I agree with the recycling part, but I don't know if I'm gonna reuse all those
everything. Every single thing probably doesn't need to be recycled. So that's funny.
What about like, I mean, when you've maybe ever like visited India or, like hung out socially with like another Marathi family or something, have you ever had any, sort of cultural differences that you've experienced even here, whether it was, visiting India?
I think the biggest thing that I can think of is probably Agraha.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
You know, and I will say it is so funny to me because I was told that in India it is what's the right word? In India, it is disrespectful or it is rude to not do Agraha.
Right.
You have to basically force somebody to eat more and more and more. At least pretend to force them. And it's so funny to me that that's considered rude to not do, because as an American, I found Agraha to be very rude. I was like, I'm taking how much food I want. I don't want more food. My stomach is full, or I don't like this item, or whatever it may be. And then people are just coming and plopping it on and playing, and it just always made me laugh, because I was like, what's seen as rude in one culture is the norm or expectation in the other, and then that norm or expectation is like rude.
Oh, I totally remember. So it was so funny. I mean, even at our own wedding, so we had all like sat down to lunch, and my husband had like warned me. He's like, Radhika, people are going to come and do Agraha to you. Just take it, and if you really don't want it, just decline politely or something. But the thing is like they don't. Sometimes I felt like they didn't know where to stop. Where it was like, nahin, khega, and you're like, no, I genuinely, like you said, like I really don't want this item. I really can't finish this right now. And then the other side of that is like, I would hate to go throw it in the trash. Exactly. But I feel like it's gonna go there anyway. So why would I want to take something?
Take more.
Right. But I think to our like Indian culture, I feel like it's almost insulting. It's almost like if if you don't do it, then you didn't treat that person well.
Exactly.
Which is to us.
आपल्याला ते जमत नाही.
आणि काही वाटत नाही मला, कोणी आग्रह केलं नाही तर I'm like, okay, good.
नाही, पण माझ्या घरी कोणी आलं किंवा माझं लग्न असेल, मला आग्रह करायचं whatever, तर I'm like, मी आधीच सांगते, मला आग्रह काय जमत नाही, तुम्ही व्यवस्थित जेवा, पोटभर जेवा, पण मी येऊन तुमच्या ताटली And it was so funny. I remember there was one incident, I won't say what or where it was, but there was one event that I was at where तुपाचा आग्रह केला जात होता. I was like, तूप का होताय तुम्ही माझ्या ताटलीत?
No, and it's so funny. I remember as a kid, I think we had gone somewhere and, I was eating, puran puri, and I'm not a big, toop person on my puran puri. I think I'm okay with like a little bit, but I remember this one Maushi had dumped like so much stoop that I was like, I don't even, and it's like, I almost don't want to eat this anymore. But she's like, no, this is the right way to eat it. And I was like, okay, I know, part of the Agraha part is like loving, but it's not. And I think we had a joke amongst our cousins that Agraha, we would call it like loving force.
Which is true.
Which is true. So. But it's like there's also force. So I don't know how loving it is. It's again, one more thing where we're kind of somewhere in the middle.
I don't even think I'm in the middle here. I'm just straight up like, no Agraha, please. म्हणजे तुम्ही बाकी लोकांना करा, माझ्याकडनं एक्सपेक्ट करू नका, मला करू नका.
So I think for me, when I say somewhere in the middle, where it's like, to me, it's like I understand that for that culture or for those people, it seems like they're doing something kind or loving, but it's like, I don't want it done on me. So I'm like, you want to do it to the other people who accept it? That's fine. And don't expect me to do it.
Exactly.
So,
totally. Okay, so now let's shift gears to something a little more maybe serious, because it's a little bit of a fun topic. So one major cultural difference that I always see between me as an American, and I'm sure you as a Canadian and Indians, is commenting on physical appearance.
Yes.
Right? Yes. Like, it is such a big, I would actually call it a problem, which is so normalized to them, but it's so hard as an American to hear about that. I'm sure you've experienced it as well growing up.
Absolutely. I think body image is such a sensitive topic, especially when you're growing up, and even now, I feel like it still affects me so much. And this sometimes happens when you go to India, but I feel like it's happened here also, where the people like to comment on your weight, but they don't necessarily say, oh, like you've put on weight. I've heard people say to me, oh, like tujhe tabiat sudhar le liye. And I'm like, oh, what does that mean? First time that happened.
Right.
Or sometimes my kind of inner dialogue is like, well, I know I've gained weight.
Why do you have to point it out?
Right, exactly. It's like maybe I'm going through something. Maybe there's something else going on. Maybe I'm not comfortable sharing something. Like it could be n number of reasons, right? And that, I feel like that part is hard to let it not affect you.
Right.
So I don't know if you feel that as well.
So I do. I feel very strongly about this topic. Also because I don't think these people realize what they're saying. And a lot of times, these comments are actually coming from within the family. आपले घरचेच लोक बोलतात. आई, बाबा, आजी, आजोबा, मावशी, काका, whatever,
Yes.
आणि मला कळत नाही की why do they feel so compelled? It's almost like an itch they have to scratch. Why do they feel so compelled की नाही मला काहीतरी बोलायचंच आहे तुझ्या इमेज बद्दल, आणि the thing that they say is just so sometimes maybe not the best thing to say, in the sense that they're saying one thing but it has a completely different implication. For example, when I was growing up, I was actually really, really skinny, before having a child and all of that. So growing up, I was very skinny. I would say I was always underweight, no matter how much I ate. I was always underweight. On top of that, I played sports. So I was very fit, right? And it was kind of annoying because I would go to India, or even here, it would happen sometimes at home or whatever, where especially aunties, like various aunties, some I didn't even know that well, they would be like, Sayli, tu kai khatach nahi ka? Tu kyodi barik hai? Some people have even gone so far as to mention anorexia. They'll be like, oh, you look like you're anorexic. And I just remember sitting there going, I'm not though. Anorexic people look completely different. And anorexia does not equal skinny.
Right.
I mean, it does, but what anorexia equals is a mental health disorder. It's a food disorder, right? It's an eating disorder. So to go so far as to call somebody anorexic, you're not telling them that they're too skinny. You're telling them that they have a mental health issue. They have an eating disorder, And so I just really wish I could go back to all these people and be like, hey, that's really not okay to say. And whether somebody is skinny or whether they're on the heavier side, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter,
And the worst part being, I was underweight, but I wasn't severely underweight. I was always, like a good underweight, like just under. But I was very fit. I was very in shape because I was working out a lot. I was playing sports. And so it always made me wonder, and it always made me laugh, because the people who were making these comments were the people who had just let loose. So I was just sitting there like, tumchi tabiat mast hai. The problem isn't me. I'm not too skinny. The problem is that your perception of what's normal is not normal. Maybe you guys should work on your exercise and fitness and being in shape before commenting on me kai karte hai nahi kaisa karte hai. And regardless, even if you choose not to, it's not my position to tell you that. It's not my place to say, oh, you're fat. Or skinny or whatever.
And what's so interesting on this topic is I actually had this conversation with a friend of mine who is, like born and raised in India. And what he was telling me was, he was like, he's like, here's the thing, he's like, people are going to comment on it, whether you like it or don't like it. And he was telling me, he's like, you should just, turn that part of, your brain off. And, he's like, when someone says something to you, just smile and laugh it off. And I was like, I don't feel comfortable doing that. I mean, not necessarily that I'm always going to talk back to that person, but I kind of wanted them to know, like, hey, I didn't like this comment of yours, and this is offensive.
Body shaming. It's just not
exactly.
Cool.
But it's interesting to me how people in India, or maybe not people in India, even people here who probably make these comments, just expect us to like accept what they're saying. And, they just expect that, we're just going to, turn that part of, our reactions off and just be like, okay, like your comment doesn't bother me. And it's like, how is that not supposed to bother you? This is so...
It's too much, and it's not a normal thing that people do on this side of the planet. People don't walk around telling each other that they're skinny or heavier. And so it's hard for somebody like us to really digest that. I have noticed that a lot of people from India who are made fun of even by just even their parents or whatever, they are so... I think, immune to it, that they're almost just like laughing along with it, or they'll make fun of themselves. And I'm just like, wow, that is some real like cultural conditioning, because I don't think that I could ever laugh at somebody commenting on my body. You know?
Yeah.
And so I just thought that that was really interesting to observe. And I don't know. I think the biggest thing I would want to put out there is, in this situation, I'm probably on the American side. For me, American.
Right.
For me, I'm on the American side, because I'm like, I don't think it's the thing to be done.
Oh, absolutely. I think that with all of these that we talked about, there's a boundary, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, obviously for the things that we don't accept, you know, someone is crossing a boundary.
Yeah.
And I think some boundaries get crossed, and maybe thinking back now in like my adult life, maybe they're not like, you know, maybe they're like not such a big deal. But I think I also would want our next generation to know that some things are not acceptable. And sometimes there is something as, you know, crossing the boundary too much.
Right. I think so. And I think for our kids, it would be good to maybe teach them how to respond.
Yes.
In a respectful manner, you know, because people are going to continue saying things. And so, you know, there's some things that are done, and I think they're funny, kind of like the, you know, just let it go. You know, that's fun. It's fine. Or, you know, if somebody wants me to call someone sir or ma'am, sure, I'll do it.
Exactly,
you know, but then I think there's other things that come up, like body shaming, that probably we should speak up and be like, hey, I don't appreciate that.
Exactly. Right. So. And I don't even know, you know, even at this point in my life, if I've learned what is the correct response, or, you know, how to deal with it. But it's a process, right?
I think it's a lifelong process for those of us who have grown up outside of the country.
Right.
And it always will be. So hey, that's what makes us us.
Exactly. Well, it's so much fun talking about this.
Good
for sure.
Talk.
Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Oh, yes.
So
we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.